The city was bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight, an eerie hush amplifying the desolation of the abandoned building I found myself in. A deep chill permeated the air, making the derelict space feel even more unwelcoming. My hunter instincts were on high alert, nerves prickling in an urgent warning. Gripping the handle of my trusty pistol, I moved further into the building's gloom. A series of unresolved missing persons cases had led me here. Ordinary folks had vanished mysteriously, investigations leading to frustrating dead ends, and those that were found bore the mark of unspeakable horror. I recognized the pattern, the hand of a vampire. The stillness of the place was abruptly shattered. A dark corner of the room seemed to come alive. Shadows twisted and morphed, solidifying into a figure that was as horrifying as it was mesmerizing. From the depth of the darkness stepped out a woman. She was an embodiment of ethereal beauty, her figure shrouded in a cloak of shadows. More shadows seemed to emanate from her, forming additional arms that danced around her like tendrils of the night. Her gaze as chilling as it was captivating. Her voice, when she spoke, echoed through the hollow building, a melodious whisper that sent shivers down my spine.
"Have you come to join us, Hunter?"
she asked, her words hanging in the air like a terrible promise. "No, I have come to end you," I retorted, my grip on the pistol tightening. She laughed, a chilling sound that bounced off the stone walls, her shadowy appendages fluttering as if amused.
"What you seek is not so easily achieved,"
she responded. Then a wave of my past crashed into me. Each memory came alive with frightening clarity. I was drowning in my history, the sensations too real, pulling me into a whirlpool of torment. I fell to my knees under the relentless assault, my strength waning. The vampire was closing in, her shadowy arms reaching not for my body, but my soul. The pain wasn't physical, it was a torment of the mind, an unraveling of my spirit. Suddenly, she stopped, her head tilting as if she'd discovered something intriguing. A slow smile spread across her face, revealing a hint of a hidden truth, her voice barely above a whisper.
"So much pain. So much determination. Yes, Hunter, you are strong. But soon you will understand that in our world, strength means embracing the shadows."
With those final words, she receded, melting back into the darkness from whence she came, leaving me alone with the echoes of her words and the fading specters of my past. I rose shakily to my feet, shaking off the remnants of old wounds, and alone. She may have been my first encounter with a Lasombra, but she wasn't the last. I've seen more of her kind since then, each encounter reinforcing my resolve. And though I still question why she spared me that night, I know now that it was not out of mercy, but out of interest. I had proven to be a curious specimen for her, a source of amusement, perhaps, or maybe a potential recruit. But the Lasombra underestimated me. I am not a puppet to be manipulated. I am a hunter, and my journey is far from over. Since that day, my life's purpose has been studying and pursuing the supernatural. My mission is to understand them, expose connections, pinpoint their weaknesses, and ultimately gain an upper hand. Emerging from the depths and darkness, the Lasombra clan is more than just a haunting thought. It's a dangerous reality. The fear humans have for the unknown, especially the darkness, is not unfounded. Indeed, it is from this very darkness that the Lasombra arise, giving credibility to such fears. Lasombra's history is as old, perhaps even older than humanity's own. They've been woven into the tapestry of cultures worldwide, albeit under various guises. You might have heard tales of Artemis, the Greek goddess of the moon and the hunt, bathing in shadows, or Ahriman, the embodiment of evil in Zoroastrian tradition. In the ancient city of Catalhoyuk, a volcano goddess was worshipped, her name lost in the sands of time, whose darkness swallowed the light of the world. The Aztecs revered Tezcatlipoca, the smoking mirror, a god of night and sorcery. These, my friends, aren't mere stories or myths. They are echoes, shadows of Lasombra that have seeped into the collective consciousness of humanity. Like all vampire clans, their story begins with their Antediluvian, a powerful vampire of the third generation that created the 13 clans. His mortal life is shrouded in as much mystery as the shadows he wields. He reveled in darkness, and it is said that during the Great Flood, he found a kinship with the shadows cast by the storm. Little is known of his time in the Second City, a fabled place where the Antediluvians dwelled. Rumors tell that he revolted against the second generation out of jealousy. His connection to the sea runs deep, like the tides within his blood. After the Second City fell, the Lasombra Antediluvian returned to the sea. He settled on an island in the Mediterranean, possibly Malta. Taking command of the pirate people, the Hyksos, he directed them against the civilizations sired by his brethren. They worshipped him as their dark god. He was rarely seen, whispered to be dwelling either on an island or beneath the waves. He granted his embrace to a select few, less and less as time went on. Among the 13 vampires of the third generation, Lasombra is the one we know the least about. Even his own vampiric kin cannot understand his motives. His ability to hide in shadows and his ancient past make him an enigmatic figure. I believe that the key to defeating the clan lies in uncovering his history and motives. If we as hunters really want to understand this clan, we need to dig deep and find out his secrets, no matter what it takes. This endeavor might lead us into dangerous waters, but it is a risk we must be willing to take for the greater good. The lineage of these ancient figures bears the distinct marks of raw power. They were not interested in the petty squabbles or minor victories of lesser beings. Their purpose was command, control, and dominance. Their legacy can be seen echoing through the annals of history, in figures of might and terror, like the pirates of old. Consider the sea peoples of the second millennium BC, a force of nature that swept across the Mediterranean with a primal fury. Their rule ushered in a dark age, a poignant reflection of their brutal dominance and the fear they inspired. There is a particular account from Egypt that sheds light on the raw power these sea peoples wielded. It narrates the execution of a group of captured sea peoples' raiders, their cries to their gods, including Laza Omribaras, falling on deaf ears. Furthermore, an account from a survivor of a massacre at sea introduces us to another name, Lasombra, meaning profiting together by knowledge or profiting together by domination. This name appears not merely as a cry for help, but rather as an assertion of their lineage and power. While these accounts may not provide incontrovertible academic evidence, they provide us with a pattern, a recurring theme of dominance, manipulation, and power. These aren't just stories, they're echoes of a chilling past, reverberations of a primal force that continues to influence events and individuals to this day. The narrative of the Lasombra clan is indeed one marked by change and adaptation. Consider the major event that occurred in 1627 BC, when the island of Thera experienced a catastrophic eruption. The impact was devastating, altering coastal habitats and disrupting the natural balance. It was in the face of this calamity that approximately a third of the Lasombra clan found themselves uprooted, driven by necessity to seek safer grounds and fresh opportunities. During this tumultuous period, the Lasombra Antediluvian embarked on one of its frequent long sojourns, returning after several centuries with a new offspring, Montano. Montano, originally named Ontai, is a figure of significant stature among the Lasombra clan, noted as the eldest living child of the Lasombra Antediluvian. His initial existence began in East Africa, where he was born to the Maasai tribe during a brutal storm that resulted in his mother's death, due to his survival being viewed as an auspicious sign. The shaman of the Falcon tribe named him Ontai, meaning enduring, and took him under his wing. He exhibited a strong understanding of the animal and spiritual realms, along with compassion and an insatiable curiosity. A turning point occurred when an ancient vampire named Lasombra descended upon the Falcon tribe. Having sought a perfect child after countless failed attempts, Lasombra decided to conduct a cruel experiment with the tribe. He instigated a plague and demanded the tribe present a child capable of eternal loyalty to him. The chosen child was to be raised in absolute luxury, leading to a natural inclination to command and be obeyed instantly. However, this plan backfired, with the result being a self-centered, spoiled man-child with no sense of accomplishment or loyalty to Lasombra. In a fit of rage, Lasombra murdered his son and threatened to halve the tribe's population as punishment. The Falcon tribe retaliated, leading to a bloody battle where Lasombra killed many but did not succeed in halving the population. Fleeing at the crack of dawn, Lasombra was surprised to find Ontai in his hiding place the next night. Ontai offered his undying loyalty to the vampire, prompting Lasombra to embrace him without enforcing a blood bond. He then commanded Ontai to massacre his tribe, starting with his closest friends. Ontai's readiness to obey stunned Lasombra, demonstrating a loyalty that couldn't be artificially reproduced. Lasombra halted the massacre, blood-bonded Ontai, and left the Falcon tribe forever. Following this, Montano and Lasombra roamed the world together, eventually relocating the Lasombra clan from the Iberian Peninsula to Imperial Rome. Montano formed the Victory Corps, a legion of powerful warriors, and masterminded military and political strategies against other vampire clans, effectively influencing Europe's history. His mastery of the Abyss remains unparalleled, and he is said to possess the rare ability to enter the Abyss without his body. Though many associate the name Montano with honor, some question this sentiment, viewing it as misguided. Regardless, it's the clear correlation between the clan's dispersal post-Thera eruption and the appearance of Lasombra elders in Africa and Inner Asia. Even after the Lasombra were forced to leave their former hunting grounds, they would continue to thrive as pirates, particularly in the Mediterranean. However, the golden age of Mediterranean piracy, a prosperous era for these creatures, was inevitably doomed to end. The Empire of Alexander served as a powerful constraint, making large-scale seafaring campaigns unprofitable for nearly half a decade, with harsh conditions prevailing for several decades thereafter, despite their internal conflicts. Alexander's successors remained on guard against these nocturnal predators. The final nail in the coffin came in 68 BC, delivered by the strategic genius of Pompey, a Roman general. Employing the substantial resources bestowed upon him by the Roman Senate, Pompey succeeded in annihilating nearly all organized piracy in the Mediterranean in a matter of months. The sea, which was once their dominion, was wrested from their grasp. Numerous hideouts, including a Maltese stronghold that had been a refuge for their progenitor, fell to combined sea and land invasions. With their pirate activities curtailed, these creatures were forced to scatter. By the end of the first Christian century, the Lasombra had dispersed across the Old World. However, many who ventured east were defeated by the forces of the Cathayans and other threats. Pompey's campaign inadvertently bolstered the terrestrial faction of this vampire clan. The changing fortunes of the Roman Republic, particularly due to the influence of Pompey, shifted the Lasombra clan's focus away from piracy as their primary means of predation. The rise of Christianity during this era, facilitated by the ease and safety of Roman citizens' travels, is noted to have been of significant interest to the Lasombra. The clan's courts of blood, responsible for enforcing their laws, moved away from their Babylonian origins to incorporate new ideas about efficiency and justice from both humans and vampires. As the landscape of power shifted and morphed, so did the Lasombra. They learned, adapted, and evolved. The Roman era, a time of chaos and order, of power struggles and resolutions, marked an important chapter in the history of the Lasombra clan. As the Lasombra Antediluvian continued to sire more children for unknown reasons, profound changes were set into motion. Among the countless progeny, there was one who caught the Antediluvians' attention: Gratiano De Veronese. A scion of a noble family from the 12th century, he found himself ensnared in the intertwining webs of church and state politics, their boundaries often blurred, in a realm divided between the Germanic Empire and the Norman Kingdom of Sicily. But Gratiano was not a man to be lost in the crowd. His charisma led him to the pulpit as a preacher. Rising to the rank of bishop while still in his 20s, he wielded it to his family's advantage, manipulating popular sentiment under the pretense of religious fervor, pitting the masses against his rivals, and reaping the spoils of their ruin. Yet Gratiano was no mere puppet master. He had grander ambitions. he dreamed of galvanizing the city-states into a united force against the imperial government to grant Italy more autonomy. However, his dream shattered in the face of rampant individualism among the nobles. His failed attempts inadvertently contributed to the demise of the city-states' independence, making them an annoyance that the Empire and Norman Sicilians crushed without mercy. By 1130, Gratiano had hit rock bottom. His failed aspirations had led him to an existential crossroads, a choice between stepping away from the national stage to attend to family matters, or a perilous final visit to the Emperor. His family, under the heavy pall of suspicion cast by the unusually dense shadows that lurked in their estate, accused him of jeopardizing their honor with his arrogance and ambition. His fall from grace was swift, his ruin complete. To those of us who know the truth of these hidden tales, the puppet master behind Gratiano's downfall becomes clear. The shadowy Antediluvian, the ancient Lasombra, was testing Gratiano's mettle for a sinister purpose, to sire a new child. Even as his world crumbled around him, Gratiano's spirit remained unbroken. The Antediluvian's offer of the embrace, the vampiric transformation, was initially rejected. But, after a brutal torture session, Gratiano's pride yielded to pragmatism. His broken body and shattered dreams left him with no choice but to embrace the darkness. After his transformation, Gratiano and the Antediluvian retreated to Sicily. Over time, Gratiano's thirst for power evolved, directing his gaze towards the Antediluvian itself. Despite the Antediluvian's supernatural foresight, it failed to see Gratiano's ambition, or perhaps it saw but chose to ignore for reasons unknown. In the decades following his transformation, Gratiano struggled to control the Italian principalities, leveraging his new powers alongside his innate skills. Despite his failures, he never stopped learning, growing increasingly resentful of the vampiric hierarchy that was more restrictive than any mortal rule. Gratiano courageously acted upon his desire for fresh opportunities, a defining characteristic of the Lasombra clan's spirit. His actions ultimately would shape the current structure of the clan and play a pivotal role in defining the identity of the Lasombra. In the dark times of the 14th and 15th centuries, as hunters, we rejoiced and despaired. The Great Plague, while it took away many lives, also granted us opportunities we had never dreamed of. Vampires found themselves starved of their usual prey, resorting to desperate measures to stay hidden among us. Our enemy was weakened, yet ever-growing in numbers. This was also the time when we, the hunters, truly began to organize ourselves. Our Inquisition, once a disparate group, transformed into a unified force. With our newfound power, we rooted out vampires and their human thralls, striking fear into the hearts of these creatures of the night. We faced additional challenges as vampires fled the east, driven by the expanding Ottoman Empire. The vampires were forced into our lands, increasing their numbers, but also making them easier to find. During this period, countless vampires fell to our might and cunning. Some perished due to infighting, their petty squabbles leaving them exposed to our righteous wrath. This era of strife exposed the weakness in their ranks, their lack of unity, and their susceptibility to our holy cause. It was during these tumultuous times that we first heard of a vampire named Gratiano. He was one of the rare few who saw the decline of their kind and tried to halt it. He gathered the rebellious vampires, the so-called Anarchs, teaching them how to exploit opportunities and navigate both the mortal and vampire world. More than that, he emphasized the dangers of the ruling elders, planting seeds of dissent that would later bloom into a full-blown rebellion. After years of secret dealings and careful manipulation, Gratiano ignited the spark of rebellion around 1483. A motley group of vampires descended upon their own stronghold in Sicily, striking against their sleeping elders. Their defenses crumbled quickly, as they had not expected an attack from within their own kind. Nevertheless, this event marked the fall of the Lasombra Antediluvian. Several Lasombra have observed a rather ambiguous sequence of events, a matter of speculation within the clan. According to one perspective, it is believed that Lasombra was subjected to Diablerie, with various possibilities proposed. Gratiano himself, who subsequently declined the role of clan leader. Gratiano, in collaboration with a group of elders, anarchs led by Gratiano, or contracted Assamite killers who joined forces with Gratiano. Legends suggest that they encountered no guardians at the resting place of the Antediluvian, and that the Shadowed One smiled upon Gratiano as his son consumed his blood. Contrary to the Sabbat's vehement denial, there exists another tale, one that narrates Lasombra's deliberate choice to undergo his own Diablerie. The purpose behind this act was to liberate himself from the constraints of his corporeal form. Following the consumption, his soul embarked on a journey into the abyss, seeking union with its essence. In this process, he transcended mere vampirism, transforming into an abyssal abomination devoid of any trace of his former humanity. Regrettably for Lasombra, the denizens native to the abyss perceive this creature as insignificant due to its previous existence as a being of flesh. As a remedy, it aspires to precipitate the collapse of the abyss into the physical world, thus extinguishing the sun forever and recreating the primordial realm that existed prior to God's creation of light. To further this endeavor, it has begun utilizing those who wield the powers of obtenebration as its sensory organs in the physical world, in search of a method to achieve this cataclysmic goal. But this is all just speculation. In our records, this event is marked with both caution and hope. Caution, because it shows the lengths these creatures will go to for power. Hope, because it proves that even the oldest and strongest among them can be defeated. It serves as a stark reminder to us hunters. No matter how ancient or powerful, every vampire can be hunted and destroyed. Following the historic demise of the Lasombra Antediluvian, Gratiano made a bold move. He called together the Friends of the Night, a secret council within Clan Lasombra, to inform them of his revolutionary act. He gave them the choice to condemn him for his audacious actions or join him. However, he also warned them of his intent to transform their society into something entirely different if they didn't put a stop to him. Many of the council members opted to remain neutral, some even siding with Gratiano and joining his rebellion, allowing the seismic shifts to take place. Gratiano, in his newly acquired position of power, made an unusual declaration. Unlike Augustus Giovanni, another vampire who rose to prominence by usurping an antediluvian, he didn't want to be the founder of a new clan. Gratiano was content with remaining a part of Clan Lasombra, provided that the monstrous entity that once loomed over them was no more. He proposed a radical concept where every clan member could define their own interpretation of their lineage and act accordingly, effectively rejecting the traditional vampire hierarchy. He also discouraged the Friends of the Night from appointing a successor to the Antediluvian, thereby further promoting his vision of decentralization. Montano, a long-standing figure of power and adversary of Gratiano, vehemently opposed these sweeping changes. Despite his efforts, he could not prevent the transformation Gratiano had set in motion. Montano and a few of his followers were cast out and jokingly referred to as an anti-tribe by members of the Friends of the Night. Just 10 years following Gratiano's revolutionary action against the old order, the Anarch Revolt formally concluded with the rather disappointing Convention of Thorns. Most of the anarchists returned to their previous obedience towards their elders, settling for largely symbolic affirmations of loyalty from their superiors. Only a brave few chose to keep fighting against the status quo. They adopted the term anti-tribe as a mark of pride. The term Antitribu soon became the standard nomenclature. It's important to note that any form of organization transcending individual clans was a new concept during that period. The formation of the Camarilla, a sort of vampire governing body, was a groundbreaking development. Elders turned to it less out of enthusiasm and more out of necessity, recognizing the need for a unified front against mortal threats and uprisings from the younger generations. As a result, they willingly sacrificed a significant portion of their autonomy. Clans that didn't join the Camarilla mostly did so because their elders realized that the stringent requirements of the organization could be just as destructive to their traditions as capitulating to the anarchists. For the following 50 years, Lasombra and others like the Zemishi, Banu Hakim, Giovanni, Ravno, and Setites continued on their own paths, maintaining their traditional ways, as the courts of blood were still functioning. Meanwhile, younger members explored new ways to interact with humanity. Slowly, some of these clans would form what is now known as the Sabbat. After the height of the Ottoman threat had passed and they had retreated, we started to hear whispers in Sicily of an alarming new development among the vampires known as the Vaulderie. For many sires, the practice of the blood bond, the act of an elder, would force obedience by making you drink their blood, creating a sense of compulsion and twisted love for them, is an essential part of maintaining the status quo. This, however, was a constant menace for defiant offspring. Suddenly, due to some unidentified blood sorcerer, this threat was eliminated. Vampires were able to form bonds with those who shared their views, pledging their loyalty and leaving the elders none the wiser. The perpetrators drank from the Vaulderie cup in their grand rituals conducted over the ashes of their ancient progenitor. This Vaulderie bond created a new kind of confinement, but it was seen as a lesser evil compared to the former oppressive reality. The adoption of the Vaulderie spread rapidly during the mid-16th century. It quickly became a defining practice of vampires rebelling against the rule of the Camarilla and their elders, as the Sabbat Pact was becoming a prominent organizational structure. The combination of the two fostered unity among dissenters, who by mid-century started calling themselves the Sabbat. This term was first officially used by the so-called Courts of Blood in charges made in 1552 and again in 1558. It should be noted that at this stage, members of the Lasombra clan were primarily associating within their own group. Inter-clan collaboration was rare and viewed with suspicion, despite the binding effect of the Vaulderie. Despite this, they partook in acts to destabilize and undermine the Camarilla. These brazen acts created public disorder that the Camarilla spent years trying to reconcile. While such victories were not frequent, they certainly strained the Camarilla's resources. Their growing influence presented them as real rivals to the Camarilla, drawing a steady stream of defectors who wished to experience their version of vampire existence. As hunters, it's crucial for us to understand these developments to protect humanity from their escalating audacity. Ultimately, the Sabbat's efforts to displace the Camarilla from Europe proved unsuccessful, mainly due to their limited resources. However, undeterred by this setback, they turned their attention across the Atlantic, seeking new territories in the Americas. While the Camarilla showed only passing interest in these lands, the Sabbat saw a golden opportunity to forge new domains for themselves. Amidst the chaos of these unexplored territories, the Lasombra emerged as visionary leaders, bringing a semblance of order through their courts of blood. They skillfully established significant strongholds throughout Central and South America, lending their support to the European conquest of the Aztecs. Their motivation for doing so varied, whether it stemmed from audacious ambition or desperate measures. They believed that the downfall of the Aztec sun god, Huitzilopochtli, would usher in eternal darkness by ending the Aztec sacrifices. Yet despite their hopes, the sun continues to rise, casting doubt on the true outcome of their intentions. The Sabbat encountered a different kind of trouble, not from external adversaries like the Camarilla, but from within their own ranks. The century of mortal revolution saw a period of intense internal conflict that nearly brought about the sect's dissolution in the Americas. This strife was primarily driven by disputes over limited resources such as herds, fueling tensions and divisions among Sabbat members. However, the sect managed to survive, thanks in large part to the Purchase Pact of 1803. This landmark agreement resolved long-standing grievances and enabled the elimination of individuals who posed threats to the sect's interests. The pact played a crucial role in strengthening the emerging ecclesiastical hierarchy within the Sabbat. Although the Purchase Pact did not completely eradicate internal conflicts, it significantly reduced tensions and facilitated more efficient responses to future challenges. This achievement was particularly remarkable considering the tumultuous circumstances of the time. However, the peace brought about by the pact did not extend fully to the regions south of English or French-speaking territories, particularly in the newly formed nations of northeastern South America. The revolutionary movements led by figures like Simon Bolivar reshaped the power dynamics in the region. While the Camarilla largely avoided involvement in the chaotic upheaval, the Sabbat found a thriving environment amidst the turmoil. Consequently, the Camarilla's presence was notably limited in countries such as Colombia, Uruguay, and Venezuela. However, this relative lack of external pressure brought internal differences within the Sabbat into sharper focus, resulting in ongoing conflicts among local archbishops and cardinals. The clan did not stop with expansion to the Americas. After the establishment of the Sabbat, the Lasombra would spread its tendrils to most facets of the world. In Asia, specifically China, the Lasombra have been active since around 1300 BC, cohabiting with other vampire clans and contending with native vampire spirits or Cathayans. Despite facing numerous obstacles such as supernatural beings, mortal hunters, lupines, and local mobs, they succeeded in gaining a foothold in mortal courts thanks to their determination, intelligence, and unique supernatural abilities. The Lasombra's history in Africa is complex and challenging due to ethnic diversity, cultural changes, and unreliable historical accounts. Their presence is hard to distinguish due to cultural and racial biases, and a lack of understanding of African tribal distinctions. The ability of powerful vampires to create delusional realities further confuses historical records. In Egypt, the Lasombra had no notable presence as the area was dominated by the Setites and Lupines, both posing substantial threats to their existence. However, there's evidence of Lasombra presence in eastern Africa, particularly south of Egypt, predating the post-Thera dispersal. Despite their existence, the Lasombra's influence over mortal societies in Africa was notably less than other vampire clans. The Lasombra's main impact was indirect, often inspiring fear and giving rise to myths about dark gods and night powers. They established numerous havens throughout Africa, with a primary focus on feeding, creating offspring, and exploring philosophical or religious themes. But their influence on mortal populations was minor. While they studied abyss mysticism and the nature of their vampiric abilities, the absence of strong leadership meant they had little effect on the broader history of the clan. In modern nights, Clan Lasombra has evolved considerably, extending its recruitment beyond specific lineages, ethnicities, and religions to include individuals from all walks of life. With the advent of the global economy, the clan has prioritized financial influence, and it now plays a crucial role in funding many of the Sabbat's operations. Despite these changes, the Lasombra's traditional rivalry with their Antitribu persists, with older and more cunning keepers generally surviving the hunts. One significant blow to the clan was the defection of Gian Galazzo Visconti, a former cardinal and signatory on the Code of Milan, a crucial Sabbat document. In a dramatic departure, he declared himself no longer part of the Sabbat, announced his new allegiance to the Camarilla, and claimed the title of Prince of Milan. Following the rise of the Second Inquisition and the onset of the Gehenna Crusade, the Amici Noctis initiated diplomatic negotiations with the Anarchs and the Camarilla. Their initial isolated offers of loyalty to the Ivory Tower eventually morphed into petitions for the entire clan's admittance. About half of the Lasombra are expected to remain with the Sabbat, but without central authority, as the Amici Noctis joins the Ivory Tower. Former Sabbat archbishops among the Lasombra now seek similar positions within the Camarilla, leveraging their influence over the Catholic Church, and offering services to fill the gap left by the Bruja and Gangrel's defection to the Anarchs. In a symbolic gesture, Lasombra Sabbat cardinals are executed. But individual princes interpret this policy differently, leading to variations in Lasombra admittance rules. The Amici Noctis hopes that the Camarilla will eventually understand the value of the Keepers and cease their purge, but for the time being, they control the exemption list, ensuring their own safety. The clan is going through a period of substantial transition and restructuring as it tries to adapt to shifting political landscapes and survive in the face of significant threats and challenges. While the Sabbat expanded throughout the globe, redefining the Lasombra clan, Another of the Antediluvian's progeny was creating his own movement, the eldest child of Lasombra, Montano. Montano was an unusual figure by vampiric standards. He despised his vampiric condition, yet showing unyielding loyalty to his sire. To most Lasombra, he was the most trusted confidant of the Antediluvian. Yet another offspring of Lasombra was also coming into prominence, Gratiano De Veronese. Gratiano demonstrated a knack for winning Lasombra's approval with his silver-tongued flattery, positioning himself as a worthy successor. Over the course of centuries, Montano and Gratiano waged a covert war of influence against each other. Eventually, Gratiano staged a successful rebellion with the help of allies from other clans, leading to the destruction of Lasombra. Following Lasombra's demise, Montano and a faction of loyalists formed a resistance to Gratiano's redefined clan Lasombra. Despite the betrayal and chaos, Montano continued to feel bound by his oath to serve Lasombra's best interests. The loyalists who resisted Gratiano's vision were mockingly referred to as the anti-tribe or Antitribu, and continued to uphold the older traditions and values of the clan. In the aftermath of the rebellion led by Gratiano, the Lasombra clan developed distinctive characteristics and dynamics. Many Lasombra, possibly echoing their founders' mortal preferences, demonstrated a strong connection to the sea. This connection was even more prominent among the Antitribu, the loyalist faction who opposed Gratiano's vision for the clan. These Antitribu operated pirate fleets that targeted the clan's financial interests and posed significant risk to vampires attempting to move their bodies across the sea. On land, the Antitribu continued to resist Gratiano's version of the clan by exploiting weaknesses in the local Sabbat and seeking potential defectors. The Sabbat itself, however, spread rapidly, attracting individuals who harbored hatred for humanity and were drawn to the promise of brutal vengeance and domination. In our pursuit of knowledge, it's crucial to acknowledge that this in-depth comprehension of their struggles and the resultant power dynamics isn't about sympathizing with their cause or favoring one faction over the other. Rather, it provides us with a strategic advantage that can be used in our ongoing confrontations with them. Our ability to exploit the divisions within the clan, to understand their shared past, and to anticipate their future actions is our most potent weapon in the struggle against them. In essence, the more we comprehend their inner workings, the better equipped we are to resist their influence and maintain our own integrity in the face of their unending power struggles. For many years, I've pondered upon my initial confrontation with the Lasombra. Despite the passage of time, clarity eludes me, leaving me questioning the motives behind the incident. Why was I spared? What expectations did they have of me? Could my relentless pursuit of their history be entangled in a grand scheme far beyond a mere mortal's comprehension? More than 2 decades have passed since the bewildering episode, yet no concrete answers have presented themselves. The question of whether the Lasombra had meticulously planned my fate, or if I was simply a temporary diversion in their immortal game, remains a mystery. Nevertheless, it is ultimately irrelevant. I will not have it dictate my actions or skew my purpose. I stand firm in my commitment to continuing my investigation into their ancient lineage, their complex power dynamics, their rivalries, and their vulnerabilities. My goal isn't just personal enlightenment, but to share this invaluable knowledge. Their ancient evil will not go unchallenged as long as I continue to shed light on their deeds. This brings me to the topic of Lasombra embraces. Very few people successfully set out to become vampires. In general, the desire to become an undead creature of the night goes along with psychological features that work against vampiric survival, including a willingness to act with insufficient knowledge and a lack of attention to details. The Lasombra choose their recruits from among those mortals who show aptitude for survival, whether or not the targets yet know anything about vampires, or would want the condition for themselves if they did. From my research, there are 2 main methodologies to the embrace. Occasionally, a mortal selected more or less at random for shovel party transformation into an undead shock troop survives and shows an intuitive knack for Lasombra powers. Estimating how often this happens is tough, though most Lasombra archbishops agree that about 1 shovelhead in 1,000 proves worth saving. It depends partly on how carefully the shovelers selected their target for strength of will, determination, or simple hatred of humanity at large, partly on unrecognized qualities within the victim, and partly on sheer luck. The other path is much more methodical and fitting of the Lasombra's knack for manipulation. Instead of hastily transforming individuals into vampires, they take the time to observe potential recruits closely. These recruits are generally not the ones in positions of highest power and prestige in society, such as kings, presidents, or CEOs. Instead, the Lasombra find more promising candidates among those who operate behind the scenes: advisors, assistants, secretaries, and the like. Such individuals often wield considerable influence, though it is often overshadowed by their superiors. Among these, the ones who harbor resentment due to their overshadowed roles are particularly desirable to the Lasombra. The clan also looks for individuals who have failed in their ambitions due to their inability to conform to societal norms. These may include politicians who couldn't hide their disdain for the public, entrepreneurs who were repeatedly thwarted by competitors, or artists whose work has been rejected by mainstream critics. What matters to the Lasombra is whether these individuals have the resilience and determination to persevere in the face of defeat. The clan looks for certain traits and states of mind, such as ambition, a desire for revenge, and cold detachment. Simply having pride is not sufficient, as unbridled pride without good judgment is not a trait that aids survival for new vampires. Finally, while some Lasombra may prefer to stick to traditional sources for their progeny, others deliberately seek out unlikely candidates. They have found promising recruits in unexpected places such as hospices, refugee camps, and clinics serving the working poor. Potential vampires can emerge from almost anywhere as long as they possess the desired traits and are willing to forsake their humanity. The Lasombra's process of selecting candidates for the embrace is unique and notably brutal. Their sires conduct a rigorous and often destructive testing process over a span of years, though this period can sometimes be reduced to months or even less due to various circumstances. This test is designed to gauge the candidate's resilience in the face of adversity, essentially attempting to break the individual by destroying what they hold most dear in life. The sire begins the test by targeting what the candidate values the most. If the candidate's family is most important to them, the sire may kill or alienate them using both mundane and supernatural methods. If physical ability is the candidate's pride, the sire might inflict a crippling injury or introduce a chronic disease to strip them of it. If it's their social standing, the sire could engineer scandals to isolate the candidate from their social circle. Throughout this testing process, the sire methodically cuts off their potential child from the world, assessing how the individual copes without resorting to mind control abilities like dominate. A candidate who fails under the pressure generally ends up in a state of utter despair, with the sire abandoning the experiment but leaving the inflicted wounds intact. A crucial aspect of this test is ensuring the candidate doesn't end up feeling devoid of purpose. Each loss is designed to ignite a new motivation, whether it's the desire to reclaim what was lost or the drive to pursue something previously considered unimportant or unattractive. A vampire without motivation cannot resist the internal predatory instincts, the beast, or thrive in the Sabbat's fiercely competitive environment. The Lasombra clan, including the Antitribu faction, prefers candidates who feel alienated from their society and have a strong desire to change or overthrow it. But they also need to have flexibility and not be too fixated on a narrow path. The candidate's vision, even if initially focused on the immediate, should have the potential for grandeur. Otherwise, the endless stretch of unlife may become a burden for them. Adjusting to unlife is a transformative process for the Lasombra clan's candidates. A candidate who manages to stay driven and active despite extreme adversity is finally introduced to their sire. However, they're often kept in the dark about the sire's hand in their suffering. The sire usually fabricates a story to make the candidate more open to the prospect of vampirism, showing them their own powers and offering the same to the candidate. Deceiving a child about the orchestrator of their life's ruin indeed carries certain risks, though these are often less significant than some sires may anticipate. The further a child grows accustomed to seeing all of humanity as mere prey, the less consequential the events of their mortal life become. Many sires choose to reveal the truth to their children as they themselves begin the process of siring, trusting in the buffer of time and their child's acceptance of their new state of existence to mitigate any potential backlash. However, there are scenarios where this trust is misplaced. A child that unexpectedly develops a degree of the Auspex discipline may catch their sire off guard with confident accusations of deceit. In the euphoria of the embrace, a sire may find themselves being diablerized in swift retribution. Many Lasombra have shared the fate of their Antediluvian by pushing a child too far or siring a being more ambitious than themselves. A more calculating child may even orchestrate a long-term revenge plot aimed at ruining their sire's life. This grand scheme may conclude with the sire's destruction, with the child seeking and obtaining, or not, the blessing of the courts of blood for such an act. After their transformation, many children are left in a deranged state due to the shock of the embrace. This usually leads to an initial period of revenge or dealing with the residual issues of their mortal lives. Following this period, the sire introduces the child to Sabbat society and begins the typical process of training and creation rites. Survival for a newly embraced Lasombra is never guaranteed. The realm of the undead is perpetually precarious. Over half of the mortals chosen to embrace fail to endure their testing period, succumbing to despair, suicide, or exhibiting personality traits that make them unfit for the clan. Even the process of the embrace itself proves fatal to at least 1 in every 100 candidates. Out of 1,000 potential candidates, only about 450 to 500 remain after the embrace. Where there were once 10 others, now there are only 8. The training period that follows before formal acceptance into the Sabbat sees a loss of 10 to 20% of these recruits. In times of crisis, these losses may even double or triple, leaving perhaps only 350 to 450 of the original 1,000. Within the next 5 years, it is normal to see at least half of newly embraced Lasombra meet their end, whether it be in battle, by the judgment of the courts of blood or the bishopric, in monomacy, by accidents, or by attempting to join the Antitribu. Of the initial 1,000, as few as 200 or as many as 300 will likely survive. Those who reach this point will continue to face challenges. Of the 5 or so left, most aren't likely to last that long. At least 1, and perhaps as many as 3, will perish in the next 5 years. The brutal process of culling continues, but the pace slows for those who endure. Half will fall between 10 and 25 years, another half between 25 and 50, and yet another half between 50 and 100. This existence extends even to the neonate sire. One day a young Lasombra could earn the right from the Court of Blood to destroy their side and ascend the ladder of generations. Such is the way of the Lasombra. For the Lasombra, like other vampire clans, adjusting to their new immortal life can be a significant challenge. The loss of ambition, the relentless pursuit of a goal or desire, can be particularly damaging to a vampire's psyche. Vampires who struggle to cope with the constraints of their immortal condition can develop mental instabilities, referred to as derangements, or lose control entirely and succumb to wassail, the final stage of the vampiric frenzy where a vampire loses all sense of self-control and ultimately meets their final death. Priests within the vampire community can sometimes help neonates or newly made vampires by guiding them towards a suitable path of enlightenment. These paths are philosophical codes that vampires can follow to resist the inherent beastly nature of their existence, maintain their sanity, and give their eternal lives a form of purpose and structure. However, such a path only works when a vampire is ready to let go of their former human sensibilities. Unfortunately, not all neonates can adapt in time, and many retain strong ties to their previous human goals and desires. This failure to let go can lead to self-destructive behaviors, which is one of the primary causes of final death among the Lasombra. In essence, an inability to shift their ambitions from the realm of the mortal to the immortal can be a death sentence for these vampires. As I've journeyed deep into the embracing practices of the Lasombra, a creeping suspicion has taken root within me. I've started to believe that I'm under some form of surveillance, perhaps subjected to a trial by my potential sire. For beings such as they, a decade or two is but a fleeting moment, a minor sacrifice of time to ensure they select a worthy addition to their ranks. However, let me make one thing abundantly clear. If that day of embrace ever dawns, I will seize the opportunity to deliver a crushing blow. Let this serve as a promise, a vow that echoes into the heart of the darkness they so revere. If the day of my supposed embrace comes, it will not be a night of victory for the Lasombra. It will instead be a day of reckoning, where the strength of my resolve meets their ungodly machinations head-on. And rest assured, it is their transgressions that will be purged from this world. The Lasombra are known to revel in the relentless struggle for survival and dominance. Publicly, and even to themselves, they proclaim their love for this perpetual battle. However, beneath the surface, some members may admit that over the course of many years, the constant social and physical warfare becomes tedious. Even more taboo is the confession that they might admire virtues that don't align with the public image of their clan, or that the constant weight of leadership may at times feel burdensome. There is a general consensus within the Lasombra clan that overly rigid structures tend to implode. Consequently, clan institutions are flexible and largely autonomous at the local level. However, these informal structures can be just as, if not more, deadly than their formal counterparts, due to their susceptibility to interpretation. The lack of rigid definitions allows for a multi-dimensional competitive landscape, providing countless opportunities for victorious Lasombra to showcase their superiority. The Iron Fist is the primary institution through which the Lasombra clan manages its internal affairs. Its purpose is to resolve conflicts within the clan and ensure that members abide by Sabbat principles, as well as any clan-specific guidelines. Despite its crucial role, the Iron Fist lacks a strict hierarchical structure or a constant presence. Its operations are rather intermittent, and it doesn't enforce any comprehensive policy across the clan. Behind the Iron Fist, there exists a loosely organized group or alliance. This network isn't visible at all times and doesn't operate based on a precise plan. Yet, it significantly influences the Lasombra clan through its teachings and examples. This network could be composed of influential Lasombra, who collaborate on major decisions, guide clan members, and maintain some degree of order within the clan. The lack of a rigid structure or consistent presence reflects the clan's core values, such as independence, individualism, and the ability to manipulate events from behind the scenes. This setup might seem chaotic from an outside perspective, but it allows the Lasombra to adapt and respond to various situations flexibly while maintaining a sense of unity and shared purpose within the clan. The Courts of Blood is an ancient institution established by the Lasombra Antediluvian. These courts were put in place to regulate and control the inherent predatory nature of vampires, particularly the tendencies of Lasombra to prey on each other. The courts function on principles and procedures established long ago, designed to maintain order within the clan. When a Lasombra has a grievance against a fellow clanmate, they make their complaint known to the influential Lasombra in their vicinity. The process involves forming a court of anywhere between 3 to 13 members, known as the Friends of the Night, who review the complaint. Deliberations can take anything from minutes to years, and the complainant must not push their case during this period under threat of potential destruction themselves. Most of the complaints are found to be without sufficient merit, and the plaintiff is reprimanded. A small portion of cases result in some form of punishment for the accused, often involving the forfeiture of information, assets, or influence. In rare cases, the court agrees that the accused should be destroyed. In such cases, the court can impose specific constraints on how this must occur, and the act must be witnessed by one or more Lasombra. The Courts of Blood operate in secrecy and are supposed to be an embodiment of tradition. The judges are concealed, and plaintiffs are summoned anonymously. Any attempt to exploit knowledge of a judge's identity is severely punished. The courts do not have a formal appeal procedure, but the judges can choose to refer the matter to other Friends of the Night. Attempting to destroy a fellow Lasombra without court sanction is grounds for complaint. Exceptions can be made for vampires acting in frenzy or elders facing extreme provocation. However, Lasombra are generally expected to control their violent urges. The courts of blood exist somewhat paradoxically within the Sabbat structure. They do not respect Sabbat hierarchy and allow any Lasombra to bring a case against another, regardless of their Sabbat rank. They can decide to postpone a judgment until after a local crisis or major Sabbat event has concluded. Conflicts between the court decisions and Sabbat order often lead to skirmishes. Interestingly, the courts of blood sometimes operate among Lasombra Antitribu as well as the main clan. This is not widely publicized, but in cities with a significant Lasombra population, clan justice is made equally available to both factions. To make your way through the vampire court, you need to be well prepared and understand how it works. You don't want to upset the powerful vampires in the clan and risk your place in the clan or the Sabbat. A while ago, I found an old letter that seemed to be from a Lasombra sire. This letter gave useful tips on proper etiquette when dealing with the court. Know what you're talking about, and have proof to support what you're saying. Even if not everything you say is true, it should be believable and backed by good evidence. Only make up evidence if you're sure you can do it well. Say what you want to say clearly and in as few words as possible. The judges will ask for more information if they need it, so don't start by thinking they don't know what they're doing. If you can, show how what you want to do will help other members of the court. But be careful not to assume too much or say that what you want to do will hurt a Lasombra who isn't there. They or their friends might be on the court. Show respect to the judges and prove that you're a good representative of the Lasombra's tradition of power. Stand up to those below you. If you're going to be in court a lot, make friends with pack members who can support what you say. Make sure to do exactly what the court tells you to do. Don't do more than they say, and don't do less. Don't use up the court's resources by bringing up issues too often. This could make people think badly of you and even lead to a decision to get rid of you for messing with the clan's interests. Don't waste the court's time with small issues. As a vampire, be patient and take your time. By adhering to these guidelines, one can effectively navigate the court's intricate proceedings, ensuring their standing remains unscathed and respected within the Lasombra clan and the Sabbat. However, it's important to remember that the Court of Blood, like the world of the undead itself, is not static. Adaptability to its ever-evolving dynamics is as critical as the knowledge of its long-standing traditions. The Friends of the Night, or Les Amis Noirs, refers to a loosely connected network of elder Lasombra, along with a selection of younger members who have demonstrated exceptional capabilities. This collective predates all known civilizations and has evolved with cultural shifts throughout history, changing their name to align with the prevailing language of power and authority in different eras. Members of this group swear an oath to protect the interests of the Lasombra clan as a whole and to counteract its adversaries. In theory, they are meant to be impartial in internal clan disputes, but realistically, many of the Friends tend to align their individual interests with the perceived interests of the clan. This group was initially founded to serve the wishes of the Lasombra Antediluvian, the original progenitor of the clan. However, after the Anarch Revolt, the unifying influence of the Antediluvian was lost, and consensus on the overall aims of the clan became less clear. Some members of the Lasombra Antitribu, those who have broken away from the main clan, are still part of the Friends, though this is rare. Most Lasombra vampires who survive for at least a century are invited to join the Friends. Such an invitation is only given after a noteworthy achievement that benefits the clan, such as a successful series of crusades, a novel application of the obtenebration discipline, or a significant diplomatic victory within the Sabbat. While the Friends of the Night are technically a secret organization, their existence is known to most Lasombra with any significant experience. The true extent of the network, however, as well as the specifics of its operations, remains hidden. Other vampire clans aren't deliberately kept in the dark about the Friends or the Courts of Blood, but the Lasombra don't actively publicize these institutions either. Many Lasombra loathe the idea of ghouls with a passion. To them, a mortal in the world of vampires is as absurd as a poodle putting on a tutu and walking around on its hind legs. Due to their command of potence and dominate, mortals are laughably easy to control, both physically and mentally. How could the Lasombra possibly respect or value such a pathetically weak and frail thing? As a consequence, the ghoul of a Lasombra is typically a sniveling and timid wretch, living in terror of a single mistake which could end their lives. Unfortunately, the Lasombra's shared bane makes ghouls such a fact of unlife that few can avoid using them for one purpose or another. Lasombra ghouls tend to fall into two broad categories. The first are the raft of accountants, lawyers, and bankers that the Lasombra need to keep the finances rolling in. And perhaps these are the luckier of the two groups. As long as the books balance at the end of the day, they will live to see another one. The second group caters to the Lasombra's difficulty with technology and their own image. Some Lasombra keep an army of personal attendants, scores of ghouls to brush the mistress' hair, do her makeup, dress her, and attend to her correspondence. Such attendants are punished severely for infractions. If the hair is not brushed with exactly 100 strokes, the ghoul might find themselves on the wrong side of the hairbrush, a potence-fueled hand wielding it. Some Lasombra develop mental fixations from their curse, and force ghouls of either stripe to share a distorted image. For example, having their faces reduced to identical spider webs of scar tissue, or being forced to wear featureless white masks. The Lasombra clan is composed of individuals with diverse perspectives on the world, and their place within it. For the sake of survival, particularly within the Sabbat, vampires with similar mindsets tend to group together. They often form vinculum bonds, only with those they either like or respect. These subcultures within the Lasombra clan lack formal organization or even universally recognized names. They represent shared viewpoints rather than formal structures. The only officially recognized structure that spans the entire clan is the Courts of Blood, and behind them, the Friends of the Night. All other groups are informal. If a group becomes organized to the point of challenging the authority of the courts, its fate will be determined by its leader's ability to argue their case effectively. If they are successful, the group might be co-opted and incorporated into the Friends of the Night. If they fail to make a compelling argument, the group would likely be dismantled. The majority of Lasombra identify simply as members of their clan in the Sabbat, without aligning themselves with any specific factions or subgroups within these larger bodies. These are the so-called factionless Lasombra. However, not belonging to a specific faction does not imply lack of interest or engagement with the affairs of the clan or the Sabbat. Many factionless Lasombra actively participate in debates about the future strategies and policies of the Friends of the Night and the Sabbat as a whole. They engage in discussions about practical matters, such as how to interact with the Lasombra Antitribu, identifying the greatest threats to the Sabbat, and other significant issues. The factionless Lasombra display a wide range of attitudes towards their clan heritage. This is in part unavoidable due to the Lasombra clan's distinctive discipline of obtenebration and its significant role in the history of the Sabbat. Some factionless Lasombra take pride in their inheritance of this power, glory, and tradition, seeing it as a testament to their effective utilization of these attributes. Others, however, are less interested in their clan heritage and find it either irrelevant or a nuisance that imposes expectations of conformity. These Lasombra are more focused on establishing their own personal empires and paths, independent of any predetermined clan norms. The Crusaders are a subset of the Lasombra who perceive the Sabbat primarily as a religious and military organization, prioritizing this over the Sabbat's ideological ethos of freedom. This group is characterized by its adherence to the Sabbat's original purpose, the resistance against the oppressive rule of the Antediluvians and the Elder Kindred. This viewpoint is more popular amongst elder Lasombra, although it has gained some traction amongst younger Lasombra, especially given the rising concern of Gehenna, the prophesied end times for the kindred. Estimating the size and influence of this group is challenging due to the dynamic nature of vampire society and the uneven distribution of ideas. However, it can be said that every major Sabbat city has a few crusaders, and they may even dominate the hierarchy in some places. Their influence varies considerably. In some councils, they're seen as a disruptive element, and are mostly ineffectual due to their unpopularity, while in others, they wield significant influence because of their relentless determination. On a broader scale, the Crusaders align with the ultra-conservative faction of the Sabbat, which includes Lasombra and Tzimisce elders, as well as some Antitribu elders, particularly from the Ventru clan. The Crusaders particularly advocate for Lasombra leadership within the Sabbat, citing the Lasombra's historical role in initiating the crusade against the elder vampires and various prophecies of questionable authenticity that suggest it will be the Lasombra who bring the crusade to its conclusion. The Faithful are a faction within the Lasombra clan that takes religious devotion very seriously. Historically, many Lasombra adhered to various faiths, with Christianity being a significant influence, alongside Judaism, Islam, and others. These vampires viewed themselves as God's servants, destined for almost certain damnation. They believed that while their actions couldn't absolve them from divine wrath, their utility as instruments of divine will could at least delay their final judgment. Cardinal Moncada was the embodiment of this perspective. For centuries, he was the leading proponent of the faithful approach, surviving through various upheavals and attempting to pass on his deep religious conviction to new generations of vampires. However, his efforts largely fell flat, as most vampires who did not possess significant religious convictions prior to their embrace were unlikely to develop such sentiments afterwards. The death of Cardinal Moncada, a powerful La Sombra and former archbishop of the famed Iglesia de San Nicolas de las Servitas Church in Madrid, Spain, has left the faithful without a strong leader. Several contenders, primarily archbishops from Latin America and the Mediterranean, are vying for the title of Moncada's heir, but none have so far been able to convincingly fill his shoes. Archbishop Menard of Nicaragua is the current frontrunner, combining his deep-seated traditional Catholic fervor with a zealous dedication to the Sabbat's various conflicts. However, his appeal is somewhat limited, as his focus on Latin American issues does not resonate with the broader faithful community, many of whom find his rants on the leftist influence in Latino Catholicism and the need for purification quite tedious. The Black Angels are a faction within the Lasombra clan that embraces the role of literal devils on Earth, serving the will of Satan by propagating moral and physical darkness. These Lasombra trace their roots back to the early Christian centuries, and even before the spread of Christianity. Similar movements existed on the periphery of dualistic beliefs such as Zoroastrianism. During the Middle Ages, this group, known as Angelus Ater, or Black Angels, continuously antagonized the Friends of Night with their unrelenting and reckless assaults on mortal society. Their actions fueled public support for the Inquisition's efforts to hunt down supernatural creatures. The craftiest among the Black Angels managed to survive and played an instrumental role in unifying the Sabbat under a doctrine of evil supremacy. In recent decades, the Black Angels have once again emerged from the fringes of Lasombra culture. The explicit dedication to evil is surprisingly appealing to a number of neonates, many of whom grew up in societies they perceive as bland and unprincipled. It appears that any code of conduct, no matter how malevolent, is welcome, as long as it offers a robust justification for their predations. The Abyss's children are a group of Lasombra, who are dedicated practitioners of Abyss mysticism. These Lasombra usually engage with the Sabbat only to the extent that it provides them a secure environment to carry out their esoteric studies. They occasionally participate in combat, demonstrating their unique knowledge and control over the obtenebration discipline, and often invoking unfamiliar occult forces. However, After their brief forays into the public eye, they tend to retreat back to their laboratories and libraries. Lasombra bishops often value having a few of the Abyss's children in their midst during times of crisis, but they are also usually relieved when these peculiar members depart. The dedicated scholars of the Abyss are often seen as odd, even by the standards of the Sabbat. No city tends to have more than a handful of the Abyss's children. Rumors persist of hidden enclaves of Abyss mystics located far from known Sabbat strongholds. It is said that the residents of these enclaves either avoid contact with the rest of the clan or interact under disguises that remain unbroken. However, skeptics argue that these rumors are just another way to distract vampires and keep them focused on non-existent targets. The Kings and Queens of Shadow are a group of Lasombra vampires within the Sabbat who choose to rule directly over humanity. They play a crucial role in the sect, undertaking many tasks that would typically be performed by ghouls in the Camarilla. These vampires embed themselves within human institutions, manipulating them from the inside, acquiring resources, and ensuring that human society remains vulnerable to Sabbat influence. However, despite the significance of their roles, the Kings and Queens of Shadow are often seen as nearly outcasts within their own clan. To blend effectively among humans, they need to maintain their humanity rather than following a path of enlightenment. To function amidst people who aren't psychopathic, they must uphold a high level of humanity, which in turn means they must avoid many standard Sabbat activities, including some crucial rites. Being assigned to work among mortals is often considered a punishment, as it implies isolation from one's pack. Choosing such a duty is interpreted as a sign of either exceptional dedication or some hidden flaw in the individual's will. As a result, few vampires give the Kings and Queens the benefit of the doubt. In some cases, the Kings and Queens form their own packs, which usually draw the special and critical attention of the local bishop. Occasionally, scandals arise when a pack of Kings and Queens is destroyed for heresy against Sabbat doctrine or conspiracy against the Sabbat's organization. Sometimes these charges are valid, cut off from different perspectives. The pack members may start to view themselves as the true Sabbat and begin to scheme for dominance. In other instances, the charges are merely convenient pretexts for eliminating vampires who've become overly attached to their human subjects and exhibit too much sympathy for the Camarilla's principles of restraint. The excerpt describes a group of Lasombra vampires known as the Corsairs, who have a deep connection and interest in the sea. The Lasombra clan has an innate attraction to dark waters, which some believe is linked to their ancient Antediluvian heritage. Among the Lasombra, some dedicate themselves to the sea full-time and become Corsairs. Corsairs vary in demeanor and background, ranging from disciplined individuals who may have been naval officers in their mortal lives to impulsive adventurers. Some Corsairs operate solo, utilizing advanced technology for navigation on their yachts, or even commanding private submarines. There are also Corsairs who establish their private empires in shipping, preying on crews and passengers and moving between vessels as floating havens. They may avoid setting foot on land entirely, or may manage their maritime ventures from shore. Recently, piracy has become a more common pursuit among Corsairs, especially in regions such as Southeast Asia and the coasts of Africa. The violent nature of mortal pirates often provides a convenient cover for Sabbat acts, and bishops sometimes recommend piracy to particularly violent packs as a way to keep them away from scrutiny. A select few Corsairs engage with the world's navies. There is mention of a Soviet Kilo-class submarine that was sold to Iran and subsequently lost at sea, which is actually under the control of Lasombra and is known as the Black Fang. The Black Fang primarily targets Camarilla-controlled shipping, and when possible, ships carrying notable members of the Camarilla. Archbishop Ferrari of Morocco is responsible for overseeing the 3 packs required to operate the submarine. Vampires have the advantage of being able to neglect life support systems, resulting in increased efficiency and stealth. The movements of the Black Fang are kept highly secretive by the Friends of the Night, and non-Corsair Lasombra, who happen to witness the submarine in action, are often sanctioned for destruction by the Courts of Blood. Additionally, there are ambitious packs seeking to gain control over naval vessels, particularly those decommissioned in former Soviet naval yards, although none have succeeded. transhumanists are Lasombra vampires, who view their vampiric existence through the lens of evolution and continual self-improvement. They see their condition not merely in terms of supernatural mysticism, but as a state that is influenced by natural laws, and one that can be understood and enhanced through systematic and scientific approaches. Transhumanist Lasombra seek to embody the full potential of unlife and strive to create the perfect vampire. Their methodology often involves quantifying their vampiric powers, creating classifications, and trying to reduce vampirism to a set of comprehensible data. This approach can confuse other vampires who perceive vampirism primarily through a mystical lens. Although some transhumanists retain their human morality, viewing debauchery and villainy as uninteresting, others follow non-human paths of enlightenment. These vampires view human morality as a limiting factor, constricting the flow of innovative ideas. Many transhumanists maintain an interest in advanced technology, such as computing, biology, medicine, and aerospace engineering, using these fields to further their understanding and mastery of their vampiric condition. Some transhumanists, however, strive for a form of perfection that is independent of any external tools. Interestingly, while they value logic and methodology, transhumanists don't reject the passionate and destructive aspects of vampirism. When they participate in rites and other activities, they can often be the most fervent participants. They do everything with a high level of intensity and commitment, though they might explain their enthusiasm in terms that other vampires find difficult to understand. Finally, some transhumanist Lasombra pursue common interests with Tzimisce metamorphosists and Antitribu, who have similar inclinations. However, others prefer to keep their pursuits within their own clan. The Fatalists are a faction of Lasombra vampires in the Sabbat who, quite unusually, believe in the absence of free will. Their belief system states that they, and potentially all vampires, are mere tools of the eldest, powerful and ancient vampires. Some Fatalists even go a step further, asserting that no sentient being has free will, as all minds are hijacked by the Antediluvians. To serve in the ceaseless conflicts these ancient entities wage against each other, despite the pervasive sense of doom and predestination, Fatalists manifest their beliefs in different ways. Some become incredibly active, throwing themselves into various pursuits, likely in an attempt to either prove their doctrine wrong or paradoxically to fulfill their predestined roles. Others, however, become reclusive, doing only the bare minimum to survive, likely seeing any greater effort as futile due to their deterministic outlook. Notably, the Fatalists don't publicly identify as such due to the potential risk of destruction, as their beliefs are generally perceived as a failure among their clan members. Despite nearly disappearing during the early stages of the Sabbat, the faction experienced a resurgence in recent years due to a series of unprecedented calamities, which presumably reinforced their belief in predestination and lack of control. The Doomed represent a faction of Lasombra vampires within the Sabbat, who are particularly reckless and self-indulgent. Unlike their brethren, who prefer to operate in the shadows and manipulate from behind the scenes, the Doomed tend to flaunt their vampiric nature in an ostentatious and often reckless manner. These vampires are inclined towards immediate gratification and power, often aiming for the outright control of everything they see, without much thought for the long-term implications or subtlety. This tendency manifests in actions such as openly displaying their vampiric features, or marking themselves with distinctive and indiscreet tattoos symbolizing their vampiric nature. However, this faction is named the Doomed for a reason. Their flagrant and often provocative behavior tends to draw unwanted attention, not only from vampire hunters, but from other Lasombra as well. More prudent and strategic members of their clan often regard the Doomed as liabilities that can attract reprisals and expose the vampire community. As a result, many Lasombra eliminate such individuals on sight, as their brazen actions can endanger the entire clan by provoking retaliations from humans or alerting dedicated vampire hunters. In summary, while the Doomed may relish their power and the terror they can inspire, their ostentatious display of vampirism and lack of long-term thinking makes them targets both for their own kind and for those who hunt their kind. The Lasombra Antitribu, members of the Lasombra clan who have chosen not to align themselves with the Sabbat, do not refer to themselves as Antitribu. They see Clan Lasombra as a single family of lineages, where some members embrace the Sabbat and the destruction of the Lasombra Antediluvian, while others do not. Additionally, individual Lasombra may choose to accept or reject the Sabbat for their own reasons. Therefore, the boundaries between those Lasombra committed to the Sabbat and those who aren't are constantly shifting. Those Lasombra lineages that reject the Sabbat often do so for one of two fundamentally contrasting reasons. Reactionaries is a term referring to the Lasombra who reject the Sabbat and remain attached to the traditional clan hierarchy and child-sire relations. These Lasombra often support the Camarilla, although about a third of them avoid sex completely and steer an independent course. They typically value humanity, and if they adopt paths, they prefer scholarly, sedate ones. Some of these reactionary Lasombra fight against their Sabbat clanmates, but this proves challenging as the Sabbat is composed of thoroughly trained warriors who are unburdened by the ethical constraints that often hinder their anti-tribu assailants. To compensate for their lack of great warlords or generals, many reactionary Lasombra align with the Camarilla. Within the reactionary Lasombra, a subfaction exists called the Distinguished. These vampires wage war against the Sabbat through indirect means. At sea, they maintain the famous Antitribu pirate fleets, while on land they engage in complex schemes of espionage and sabotage. Some Distinguished maintain a rigid, demanding ethical code while behaving flamboyantly, while others can be almost as monstrous as their enemies, much like the kings and queens of Shadow. Many of the Distinguished specialize in influencing mortal society to turn it against Sabbat activity. Radicals is a term referring to a subset of Lasombra who reject the Sabbat because they believe it doesn't go far enough in embracing the vampiric nature. These radicals fully accept that vampires are innately inhuman and revere the Antediluvian as the embodiment of darkness. They view any vampire who believes they can destroy such a powerful embodiment of darkness as foolish and undeserving of respect. Radical Lasombra are dedicated practitioners of the obtenebration discipline and thaumaturgy. Their ultimate goal is to bring about the end of all light in the universe. They wish that their Sabbat counterparts would abandon their preoccupations with overthrowing Antediluvians and allying with other clans, and instead focus on what the radicals see as the true work of the Lasombra. Radical Lasombra rarely retain their humanity for long, as it is seen as an impediment to their mission. The process of becoming an anti-tribu Lasombra is much like that of becoming a Sabbat Lasombra, including rigorous and often destructive testing. The anti-tribu take this even further due to their limited numbers and the need for exceptional children who can withstand the pressures they will face. Reactionaries, who often align with the Camarilla, must make sure they create a positive impression on the sect. Radicals require children who can handle the mental and physical challenges of being constantly exposed to the darkest forces. Lasombra, who are part of the Camarilla, usually emphasize their adherence to the traditions concerning the embrace and the release of children. Their released children are some of the best educated in the sect. Other anti-tribu follow their own inclinations and traditional clan wisdom when selecting suitable children. There have been attempts by reactionary Lasombra to carry out mass embraces, similar to Sabbat shovel parties. These efforts, aimed at quickly creating large numbers of children and preparing them for battle, resulted in the complete destruction of the newly created vampires. Some reactionaries speculate that the Sabbat have a specific rite that infuses their shock troops with knowledge and power. Despite the high failure rate, these experiments are likely to continue due to the pressures of the final nights, but will likely be conducted in secret, away from the Camarilla and other observers. Defection from the Sabbat, particularly for the Lasombra, is a complex and dangerous process. The Sabbat do not provide information about the anti-tribu or aid for potential defectors, making it very likely for ill-informed vampires to be caught and destroyed. Before defecting, a Sabbat Lasombra must dissolve their vinculum bonds, either personally or over time. This is especially important for those with strong bonds, as their awareness of betrayal can make unlife very uncomfortable or even impossible. Finding the Antitribu is the next challenge. New defectors may have some vague idea about the Camarilla, but they are generally unfamiliar with their customs and practices. A detected defector is likely to be eliminated immediately. Hence, they need to maintain good behavior, avoid offending anyone, and earn some form of temporary protection, which is difficult since the Sabbat does not foster these social skills. However, reaching the Camarilla does not guarantee safety unless the defector plans to join another clan. Princes generally have limited knowledge about the Lasombra Antitribu and may not be open to acknowledging a newcomer. Consequently, some defectors avoid the Camarilla entirely, or leave shortly after gaining minimal recognition, choosing to seek out their clanmates instead. The Antitribu have observers in Sabbat territories, but identifying genuine defectors is challenging, as many alleged defectors are decoys set to trap the Antitribu. A defector making questionable moves can quickly be destroyed by the very people they are trying to reach. Only about 1 in 10 defectors successfully find their desired clanmates, and even then they face a lengthy probation period. Mental disciplines complicate trust building. A new defector might have unknown elements in their mind that could pose threats. Therefore, fully earning trust and status among the Antitribu after being associated with the Sabbat can take years, or even decades. Like many other clans, the Lasombra do not view many in a positive light. Often there is as much internal conflict within the Sabbat as there is with outsiders. This is a reality that Lasombra clan members, like any other in the Sabbat, must navigate carefully. The dynamics of internal politics and power struggles mean members might find themselves battling their own comrades as frequently as they do their enemies. The Sabbat, however, also represents the only source of potential allies for the Lasombra. Every outsider poses a threat to the Sabbat's survival, making them natural enemies. Relationships within the Sabbat therefore become incredibly important and need to be managed wisely. These alliances are further solidified by the vinculum, a powerful bond forged through the Vaulderie. For the Lasombra, and particularly for those who aspire to positions of leadership like priesthood, understanding and navigating these realities is essential. The complexity of their situation is deepened by the fact that the mechanisms that bind them together, such as the vinculum, are part of a larger ancient system that operates beyond their full understanding, adding an element of mystery and awe to their existence. Despite the challenging nature of these relationships and dynamics, the ability to survive and thrive in this environment, and potentially earn diableries from the courts of blood, represents an exciting opportunity for the ambitious Lasombra. In other words, these are the challenges and rewards that make up their unlife within the Sabbat. The Tzimisce are simultaneously the closest allies and the most formidable rivals of the Lasombra within the Sabbat. The Lasombra clan initiated the revolt that led to the formation of the Sabbat, which was later joined by the Tzimisce. This led to a bitter rivalry, as the Tzimisce do not like coming second to anyone, including the Lasombra. Given this, the Lasombra are warned to be always on guard against the Tzimisce. While there may be opportunities to work together for common causes, and building relationships with the Tzimisce can prove beneficial, the Lasombra should always be cautious. Trust should only be given when witnessing the fiends participate in the Vaulderie, a ritual of blood-sharing that strengthens the bonds between Sabbat members. Even then, the Lasombra are advised to be reticent in sharing confidences. Their disciplined vicissitude also requires the Lasombra to stay vigilant, as the ability to manipulate flesh and bone proves a very potent tool for espionage and disguise. The Lasombra openly ridicule the Camarilla, a large group of vampires. They believe that the Camarilla are missing the point about what it truly means to be a vampire. In the Lasombra's view, the Camarilla's efforts to hold on to their human qualities is pointless and misguided. For the Lasombra, trying to hold on to any kind of humanity is a waste of time. They see this as a useless effort to reject the reality of their vampire nature. They believe it's foolish to try and keep any humanity in a creature whose life is based on hunting others. They think the Camarilla's goal of making vampires more human is a mistake that doesn't make sense given their true vampire nature. Yet, in an ironic twist, the Lasombra, who are usually very set in their ways, have recently shown a sudden change in their beliefs. They have been trying to join the Camarilla, the very group they used to mock. This has been a surprising and entertaining turn of events for the vampire world. Now everyone is watching the Lasombra's actions closely, curious to see what they will do next. The Lasombra clan holds a highly critical view of the Bruja clan, considering them the most pathetic among all the clans, even surpassing the Toreador and Gangrel. From the Lasombra's collective standpoint, they perceive the Bruja as the parasites, lacking the ability to assert themselves or achieve glory. The Lasombra find the Bruja's inclination to hide from mortal eyes, rather than commanding attention or subduing humans with their power to be cowardly. The Bruja clan prides itself on rebellion, yet they consistently fail to actually depart from the status quo, seize control, or bring about meaningful change. Regarding the Bruja Antitribu, the Lasombra see them as essentially similar to their mainstream counterparts, except with a greater emphasis on displaying their rebellious nature through bloodshed and piercings. The Lasombra clan holds a distinct perspective on the Gangrel clan, regarding them as individuals with wasted potential. From the Lasombra's collective standpoint, they believe that the Gangrel could assert themselves as powerful rulers of the wild, akin to chaotic gods, if only they possessed vision and organization. However, the Gangrel often scatter when they perceive the imminent arrival of Gehenna, lacking the cohesive strength to face it head-on. The Lasombra clan acknowledges that the Gangrel's strengths do not directly challenge their own, prompting them to occasionally make efforts to recruit them. They recognize the potential of the Gangrel to contribute to the strength and diversity of the Sabbat, but only if they are willing to embrace discipline. The Lasombra also note that the Gangrel's twin Sabbat bloodlines serve as a testament to their mixed heritage, resulting in remarkable displays of vigor and cunning within their ranks. The Lasombra clan holds a particular view of the Malkavians, perceiving them as both visionaries and lunatics. They suspect that the Malkavians' collective dreams and hallucinations are a flawed attempt to replicate the Lasombra's experience with the Abyss. The Lasombra note the striking similarities between the subconscious workings and symbolic nature of communications within their own clan and those exhibited by the Malkavians. The Lasombra find the exact nature of the Malkavians' blood curse somewhat ambiguous. They question whether it is imbecility or simply a shallow streak of childishness that keeps the clan in a state of triviality. While some of the Malkavian Antitribu appear interesting, the Lasombra clan believes that for every genuinely visionary general or inventor among them, there are numerous examples that serve as cautionary tales or educational examples of what not to become. The Lasombra clan holds a distinctive view of the Nosferatu, perceiving them as a clan that manages to survive despite appearing utterly and pathetically useless. From the Lasombra's collective standpoint, they suspect that the Nosferatu must be engaged in activities or strategies that remain concealed from their observation. Some Naudists claim that a passage suggests the Nosferatu would be the first to perish in any vampire conflict, leading some to speculate that one or more Antediluvians may keep the clan around as expendable pawns for a future battle. However, such a notion seems unlikely to the Lasombra. Instead, they believe that the Nosferatu's mere competence and their unique advantage of dwelling in darkness grant them a competitive edge within the Camarilla. The Lasombra clan also holds a rather dim view of the Camarilla, perceiving it as lacking collective wisdom. They suspect that the Nosferatu's role as an idiot savant information broker act may serve to lull the other clans into a state of blissful ignorance. Regarding the Nosferatu within their own sect, the Lasombra regard them as a cunning and elusive group. While not always intellectually brilliant, they possess a cleverness that enables them to navigate their surroundings effectively. Moreover, the Nosferatu, with their unique ability to perceive and manipulate darkness, often observe and uncover information that others would miss. From the Lasombra's perspective, they strive to keep the Nosferatu they encounter occupied by assigning them the task of investigating their rivals, utilizing their talents for information gathering within the intricate web of vampire politics. The Lasombra clan holds a distinct perspective on the Toreador clan, perceiving them as masters of poetry and aesthetics. They acknowledge the captivating nature of Toreador's artistic expressions, recognizing that their words and creations possess the power to enthrall even those who might be disguised as Toreador themselves. However, the Lasombra view this charm as an opportunity to exploit and deceive. From their collective standpoint, they envision a scenario where they would lure a Toreador and their entourage with the beauty of their words, only to subsequently slaughter them and their servants, seizing their possessions for later sale. The Lasombra find this ability to manipulate and exploit the Toreador clan quite marvelous. Additionally, the Lasombra note that some members of the Toreador Antitribu exhibit a similar fascination with their clan's shadow-transformed bodies. The Lasombra clan sees this as an opportunity for those who've mastered the Black Metamorphosis discipline to gather a small following of Toreador admirers, should it align with their plans and objectives. The Lasombra view the Tremere as a force to be reckoned with, acknowledging their effective organization despite the presence of individual vices such as greed, jealousy, and betrayal. From the Lasombra's collective standpoint, they recognize the Tremere's systematic exploration of thaumaturgy, a discipline deeply rooted in the undead condition that often drives its practitioners to progressively lose their humanity. The Lasombra acknowledge that if the Tremere were to unite and pursue power collectively, they would pose a significant threat. However, the Lasombra's fortunes are currently favoring them, as the internal affairs and obligations of the Tremere prevent them from mounting serious challenges to the Lasombra's dominant position. Recently, the Lasombra lost contact with the Tremere Antitribu, with rumors suggesting that an unfortunate fate befell them all. In light of this development, if any defectors from the Tremere clan are discovered, the Lasombra collectively emphasize the importance of extending proper welcome and care to these newcomers. The Lasombra clan holds a rather dismissive view of the Ventru clan, perceiving them as lacking the intelligence, strategic planning, sophistication, and unwavering commitment to dominance that define the Lasombra themselves. From the Lasombra's collective standpoint, they see the Ventru as counterparts who possess similar aspirations of power and control, but without the necessary intellect and finesse. In other words, the Lasombra view the Ventru as a less intelligent and less refined version of themselves, often referring to them derogatorily as the Blue Bloods. The Lasombra clan observes the Banu Hakim with a sense of intrigue and caution. Within the Sabbat, many long-standing members have returned to the safety of their respective Assamite strongholds, suggesting that not all of them have been eliminated. Simultaneously, a new wave of admiration for the Sabbat and its ideals spreads among numerous cities, fostered by the Banu Hakim. The Lasombra acknowledge the utility of forming business alliances with the followers of Set, as they can prove to be valuable associates. Nevertheless, they emphasize the importance of establishing clear boundaries when engaging with them. The Lasombra caution against disregarding these boundaries, as they have witnessed numerous members of their own clan condemned by the courts of blood due to their foolish belief that one more deal couldn't possibly have any negative consequences. The Lasombra assert that such deals can indeed be harmful. The Lasombra clan holds a perplexed view of the Giovanni clan, expressing a lack of understanding and a lack of interest in seeking a deeper understanding of their counterparts. The Lasombra acknowledge that despite certain shared points in their respective clan histories, they fail to find any common ground or shared perspective with the Giovanni. They particularly struggle to comprehend the Giovanni's preoccupation and obsession with the dead, which they consider even more pathetic than the Camarilla's dedication to the Masquerade. At times, however, the Lasombra perceive the Giovanni as potentially approaching the abyss itself, albeit from different angles. This aspect leaves them with a sense of uncertainty or suspicion. Fortunately for the Lasombra, they have minimal need to engage with the Giovanni clan, and thus they maintain a distance from their activities and affairs. The Lasombra clan harbors an intense hatred towards the Ravnos clan, desiring their complete eradication from the world. The Lasombra emphasize that their disdain is not rooted in stereotypes surrounding gypsies or similar associations. They recognize that the Ravnos clan, like any other, possesses a rich history and diverse membership, often managing to evade close scrutiny. What truly troubles the Lasombra is the unique chaos and confusion that the Ravnos bring. From the Lasombra's perspective, encountering a Ravnos in an area prompts the wisest course of action, retreating into the shadows and patiently waiting until the Ravnos departs. The Lasombra perceive the Ravnos as masters of manipulating fears, hopes, and self-deceptions with remarkable precision, even without relying on mystical powers of illusion. The Lasombra clan believes that the Ravnos excel as social engineers of the highest caliber. Regrettably, the Lasombra find the Ravnos' worldview disgustingly scattered and utterly useless. They claim that the Ravnos weaken the social structures of all undead communities they traverse. For the Lasombra, such turmoil is unacceptable, as it undermines the stability and order of the Sword of Cain, the Sabbat. They assert that chaos should unfold only on their own terms, and not be influenced by the disruptive tendencies of the Ravnos clan. Among the non-European clans, the Lasombra considers the Asian clans to be the most successful, with occasional incursions into other territories. The Cathayan sect, referred to as the Pentaple Court or Crossed Court, functions as their equivalent of the Camarilla or Sabbat. The Cathayan sect encompasses at least 3 distinct clans, possibly even up to 8. Determining clear lineages among them is challenging, and many Cathayans deny the existence of clans in the conventional sense employed by other kindred. Regarding their interactions with mortals, the Cathayans adopt a unique combination of the Lasombra's sense of superiority and the Camarilla's convoluted ethical guidelines. They also make inflated claims about the power of their elders. The Cathayans deny the existence of Cathayan Antediluvians, but encounters with their revered figures, such as Buddhas or Brahmins, are considered significant threats, and destroying them is seen as a service comparable to destroying any Antediluvian. Some factions within the Cathayans seek territorial expansion in the Pacific Rim region. The Lasombra's Les Amis Noirs have taken the stance that such expansion at the expense of the Camarilla is of little concern to them. However, certain Lasombra elders express apprehension, and the situation merits careful surveillance. If the Asian vampires pose a threat to the interests of the Lasombra clan and Sabbat, the Lasombra acknowledge the need to embark on a crusade against them. The Lasombra clan acknowledges the considerable threat posed by lupines, understanding that, on an individual basis, lupines have an easier time destroying vampires than the other way around. However, the Lasombra also recognize certain advantages they possess. As urban creatures who spend a significant amount of time among their own kind, vampires like the Lasombra are seen as less tempting targets compared to Camarilla members or independent vampires. Although vampires may emit a stronger scent of blood and other substances that upset the lupines, they still present a lesser attraction overall. When encountering lupines in their vicinity, the Lasombra advise exploiting their advantages. They suggest offering a few sacrifices to appease the lupines, and either waiting until the beasts depart or relocating to a safer location. The Lasombra emphasize the importance of utilizing strategy and careful manipulation to mitigate the immediate threat. The Lasombra also dismiss the notion of vampires successfully working out deals with lupines, equating it to the notion of vampires receiving messages from Cain. They caution against taking such stories at face value, considering them equally unreliable and lacking in validity. The Lasombra clan maintains a cautious stance towards mages. While the Lasombra's Les Amis Noirs express a theoretical interest in understanding the various forms of magic practiced by humans, they find it too dangerous to pursue in practice. Blood mages among the Lasombra acknowledge that the magic accessible to vampires differs significantly from mortal magic. Therefore, there is little self-interest to be gained from studying human magic. especially considering the substantial power possessed by skilled mortal mages. The Lasombra advises taking action when mages pose a direct threat to ongoing activities, ensuring that appropriate measures are taken to neutralize the danger. However, when there is no immediate threat, the Lasombra recommend maintaining distance and avoiding unnecessary involvement with mages, as their potent magical abilities can be unpredictable and potentially hazardous for vampires. The Lasombra clan recognizes the existence of restless souls, the presence of wraiths. They acknowledge that these spirits are driven by intense individual passions, often surpassing the fervor of newly recruited Sabbat members during the initial stages of the Vaulderie. Given this understanding, the Lasombra firmly advise against drawing any conclusion other than stay away when encountering wraiths. They stress the need to maintain distance and caution in dealing with these spectral entities. However, the Lasombra do acknowledge that there are rare instances when it may be possible and profitable to engage with wraiths, in particular when their plans align with various groups or factions that share a common interest in overthrowing existing rulers and potentates, even if those factions would object to Lasombra rule as well. In such cases, the Lasombra recommend treating the interaction with wraiths as they would with the Zemishi or the Setites. This involves establishing clear and defined boundaries for any agreements made, ensuring that the terms of the deal are well understood and limited in scope. Once the agreed-upon objectives are accomplished, it is crucial to conclude the dealings and avoid entanglement beyond the agreed-upon goals. The Lasombra clan holds a stern and uncompromising view regarding the subject of changelings. They caution against any desire to seek a deeper understanding of these beings who are said to feed on dreams and exist partially in an imaginary realm. The Lasombra's Les Amis Noirs make it clear that should one show an interest in exploring or comprehending changelings, they will meticulously outline the circumstances of their demise. The Lasombra perceive any inclination towards engaging with changelings as a failure in proper instruction, and they strive to avoid such errors in the future. The message is clear. The Lasombra strongly discourage any involvement with changelings and emphasize the potential consequences for those who defy this warning. The Lasombra clan acknowledges that some elder members of their clan possess a sense of confidence in their understanding of mortal society, both in the present and in past eras. However, the Lasombra caution that such a mindset is erroneous. Despite their superior abilities and knowledge, the Lasombra emphasize that their numbers are small compared to the vast population of mortals. It is crucial not to assume that everything about a given situation is fully understood. Allowing room for surprise and avoiding overconfidence is key to avoiding the unfortunate and preventable fates that befall fellow warriors. The Lasombra are aware of reports regarding mortals displaying unfamiliar aptitudes in recent times. However, they do not view this as fundamentally new or cause for panic. Mortals have always been capable of inventing new things and adapting, akin to a collective immune system that ultimately fails in the long term but can be temporarily annoying. Instead of panicking, the Lasombra recommend studying the environment, gathering information, and adjusting their actions accordingly. As for the witch hunters, the Lasombra do not perceive them as fundamentally different from previous encounters with mortal hunters, suggesting that there is no immediate cause for alarm or significant changes to their approach. Like all vampires, the Lasombra possess a set of disciplines to bolster their already inhuman bodies. For the Lasombra, their unique discipline is known as obtenebration. This ability allows them to manipulate shadows as well as an assortment of other powers we will get into later. While obtenebration shows the distinctive Lasombra nature most clearly, the clan scholars believe that dominate and potence also reflect particular aspects of Lasombra's legacy. For most keepers, what they do isn't quite like what other clans do, even when they're using the same discipline. Similar effects sometimes spring from very different causes. The Lasombra understanding of the discipline of dominate is a unique blend of their obsessions with shadow and reflection. When a Lasombra uses Dominate, it's not just about enforcing their will upon the victim in a simplistic or abstract way. Instead, they carve a portion of the victim's will away, leaving an imprint of themselves within the victim's mind, thereby directing and manipulating the victim's thoughts and actions. Potence is a discipline that manifests as supernatural strength and vigor in vampires, and the Lasombra clan has a unique take on this discipline. They dislike weakness, but they don't see strength as merely a physical attribute. Very few Lasombra build strength in the strictly physical sense. Instead, their supernatural vitality is a result of their transformation into a being that transcends human limitations. Christian Lasombra, or those interested in various Christian heresies, interpret their ability to wield potence as a kind of transubstantiation. This term, borrowed from Christian theology, refers to the transformation of the bread and wine in the Eucharist into the body and blood of Christ, while maintaining the same appearance. Similarly, Lasombra who use potence may look like ordinary mortals, but they possess a strength that transcends mortal capabilities. Some Lasombra who are more scientifically inclined believe that their mastery of potence taps into the fundamental energy of the universe via the blood. They posit that a true master of this discipline could, in theory, leverage this cosmic energy to move mountains, or even planets. However, most Lasombra link potence with their signature discipline, obtenebration. They see potence as the inward manifestation of their shadowy legacy, strengthening their own bodies instead of external environments. This understanding underlines the deeply personal and transformative nature of the Lasombra's use of their disciplines. Obtenebration, a unique ability held by the shadowed Lasombra lineage, grants a practitioner the ability to govern the elusive element of darkness. This profound capability extends far beyond the ordinary, enabling the manipulation of shadows into forms that defy the natural and scientific world. The essence of the darkness conjured by obtenebration stirs profound debates among its wielders. Its substance can drink in light, sound, and aroma, proving potent enough to inflict physical harm, yet it remains weightless and resists any attempts at scientific classification. Newcomers to this power often reel at its otherworldly, supernatural quality. Questions of its origin and substance spark wild theories, ranging from the occult to dimensions that lie beyond the mortal plane. Some postulate that this power merely reshapes existing shadows, mirroring the transformative process that turns blood into the life-sustaining elixir that fuels their immortal lives. The unnatural behavior of these shadows, moving independently of their light sources, detaching and floating freely, can trigger profound terror in mortals. Their ingrained understanding of reality is challenged, invoking primal fears of the supernatural, the unknown, and absolute darkness. A Lasombra wields the captivating power to bend shadows and dim light to their will, making them ripple, twirl, and sink into a deeper darkness. This control is a versatile tool. It can unsettle those who watch, envelop the Lasombra in a stealthy mantle, and allow for delicate interaction with the surroundings. Even more impressively, a Lasombra can call forth a swath of shadows that consumes an entire area in darkness. This shadowy cloak obscures sight and throws a wrench into actions within its reach, acting as a powerful shield and giving the Lasombra the upper hand in shaping the outcome of any encounter. Yet the true marvel of this shadow craft is the ability to harden shadows into flexible, tentacle-like projections that act as an extension of the Lasombra's will. These shadowy arms are more than illusions. They can strike, guard, and engage with the environment. Their ghostly appearance can make even the most courageous adversary think twice. Furthermore, these shadowy projections can alter their form. Depending on the Lasombra, they might morph into chains or ropes. Interestingly, this seems to be influenced by the wielder's past experiences and not consciously controlled. The shapes they take are enigmatic reflections of the Lasombra's history and soul, adding an additional layer of mystique to this dark art. For those who have honed their mastery in the discipline of obtenebration, even grander feats are achievable. The most adept and powerful among them can summon enigmatic entities from the shadowy abyss, or even dare to descend into the abyss themselves. However, such formidable acts come with enormous stakes. Performing them recklessly or with a faltering will can unleash catastrophic consequences. The Abyss is a double-edged sword, and to wield it one must have the resolve and mastery to grapple with forces that teeter on the precipice of oblivion. Of the various abilities that Obtenebration brings to the Lasombra, the Tenebrous form is the most notable and powerful ability they wield. When the Lasombra call upon this power, their physical form disintegrates into an all-encompassing abyss, a living shadow that moves and strikes with lethal precision. It's not merely an alteration of appearance. It's a complete transformation, the physical body giving way to pure sentient darkness. In this state, they become virtually immune to physical harm, their formless bodies contorting and reforming in response to any attack. The most terrifying aspect, perhaps, is the inky black maw they can open to consume their victims, reducing them to nothing more than echoes of despair. This form embodies the very essence of the Lasombra, a terror that lurks in the depths of the dark, a fearsome manifestation of the night itself. For those who wield this power, its constant use presents a unique conundrum. Their actions, steeped in the manipulation of deep-rooted fears, could lead to a diminishing connection to their own human roots, and force them to confront the alien nature of their powers. This remarkable ability doesn't merely serve as a demonstration of power. It's a deeply unsettling phenomenon that subverts the norms of reality and provides ample opportunities for personal growth and exploration. Despite its power, the use of Obtenebration must be judiciously applied, as its conspicuous manifestation could betray the existence of these extraordinary beings to the uninitiated. It is, therefore, a tool of power and subtlety, a fascinating amalgamation of darkness and terror. The Abyss represents a captivating paradigm within the realm of the shadow-manipulating Lasombra lineage. Rather than a conventional locale, the Abyss is an ethereal dimension interlaced with the quintessence of darkness and shadow. As the ancient forebear of the Lasombra has proposed, the Abyss may be akin to the pre-light state of existence, embodying the raw, fundamental darkness that reigned before the advent of illumination. This primordial darkness is perceived as a wellspring of power, which the Lasombra can draw upon and reshape via their mastery over the shadows. The intelligence residing within the Abyss defies ordinary comprehension. Rather than exhibiting consciousness or self-awareness as understood by humans or vampires, it's a mosaic of knowledge, emotion, and potential steered by some enigmatic underlying principle or force. Elements of this intelligence may crystallize into coherence before scattering again, operating more akin to an emotive algorithm than a sentient entity. The liaison between the Lasombra and the Abyss is an anomaly amongst vampiric lineages and their distinctive abilities. This association with the domain of elemental darkness demarcates them, fueling their reputation as enigmatic, formidable, and immensely powerful beings. The Lasombra's curse, their bane, is not a simple one to describe. They've been partially drawn into the Abyss, the eternal darkness that they draw their power from. This grants them their abilities, yes, but it also denies them a crucial part of their existence. Due to this, the Lasombra cannot see their own reflection. The creature they once were in life, the visage they once knew, is forever lost to them. Mirrors do not show them. Cameras distort their image, and even the most advanced technology fails to capture their likeness. Their voices are distorted through microphones, and they often find that touchscreens and other modern conveniences become unresponsive in their hands. Many Lasombra have to employ mortal attendants just to handle everyday technology for them, which can be quite the inconvenience. This disconnect with their own image often pushes Lasombra to extremes. Some might sit for a portrait every few years just to remember what they look like, while others might resort to drastic measures like hiring a Zimishi to reshape a ghoul into their own image. But let me stress this. Overreaction to this bane is frowned upon within the clan. They regard it as a sign of weakness. Overcoming the inconveniences it presents is considered part of their test of worthiness. It is another trial to conquer, another darkness to master. The Lasombra's compulsion is as much a part of their essence as the darkness they wield. The Lasombra are defined by their unrelenting drive to succeed and dominate. Failure, to them, is abhorrent. It's something they simply cannot accept. This relentless pursuit of victory takes a strange form in their compulsion. They call it ruthlessness. When the Lasombra's beast flares up and they're faced with failure, their blood compels them to take increasingly ruthless measures to turn the tides in their favor. It's as if every fiber of their being refuses to accept that they could be bested, and they would burn down the world itself rather than admit defeat. They'll tear through friends and foes alike to achieve what they've set their sights on. And if you stand in their way, well, let's just say that the shadows themselves might reach out to swallow you whole. This is why it's important to know when to press an advantage and when to retreat. If you can navigate these treacherous waters and exploit their desperation, you might just be able to defeat them. But be warned, because in their ruthlessness, there's very little they won't do. The Lasombra clan is a prime example of the survival of the fittest concept, where only the fiercest members thrive beyond their initial years. The prominent members of this clan wield considerable power and have a strong influence. As I consolidate the information from my research, I'm compelled to highlight that comprehending these key individuals is among the most vital insights I can provide to my fellow hunters. A combination of self-awareness and an astute understanding of your opponents is frequently the cornerstone of survival. Cardinal Moncada was a prominent figure in Clan Lasombra, having shaped the clan and its sect for nearly 1,000 years towards a vision of vampire dominance, under the symbol of Heaven's wrath. His influence and strategic skills were vast, negotiating peace agreements, convincing enemies and annihilating others, all while staying ahead of potential rivals. Many of the Lasombra's current strategies in the final nights, including rapid expansion into the New World and establishing brood havens on Imperial frontiers, were his initiatives. His base of operations in the mirrored chambers beneath Madrid served as a cultural hub for Clan Lasombra. Moncada had more authority and influence over the clan than even the Friends of the Night. However, his downfall was caused by his own hubris. A confluence of unexpected events led to his demise. Ironically, an abyssal guardian that Moncada himself had summoned to guard his inner sanctum turned against him due to a complex conflict of commands, a situation that the survivors are yet to fully comprehend. Now he has met the eternal punishment he always anticipated. The remnants of Cardinal Moncada's haven have turned into a pilgrimage site for devoted Lasombra, and even for some fervent vampires from other clans. They travel to witness the place where the greatest proponent of the vampire's role as instruments of divine vengeance fell, and to contemplate their own uncertain futures. A small group of elder Lasombra ensure the protection of these pilgrims in and around Madrid, defending them from potential threats. Lucita de Aragon, a renowned independent member of Clan Lasombra, is navigating a new world of challenges after the demise of her sire, Cardinal Moncada. She was involved in the Assamite attack that resulted in his destruction, anticipating that his end would bring her tranquility. However, his absence has not brought the expected peace. His influence in the form of ideas and challenges continues to loom over her. In retrospect, Lucita has begun to realize that her existence was dominated by a series of actions in opposition to her sire. Unknowingly, she often acted in ways that would displease him and disrupt his plans the most. With his absence, she finds that this motive, which was not her only but a significant one, has lost its meaning. This has caused her other motivations to coalesce in unfamiliar ways. Currently, Lucita finds herself seeking the company of other vampires outside the usual start or end of contracts. Disguised in various forms, she is keen to understand the purpose and future plans of both young and old vampires in the Camarilla and Sabbat. Rumors about Lucita's whereabouts have always been a popular topic among the Lasombra, a pastime that continues even more strongly in recent times. While many rumors place her in a multitude of intriguing locations, most of these are likely untrue, given the need for constant travel and mistakes that would make her noticeable. In reality, the majority of her actual appearances among other vampires go unnoticed. Interestingly, some ambitious young vampires sometimes impersonate her. Rather than taking offense, Lucita finds this amusing and allows them to continue, knowing that getting caught will eventually deter these impersonators. Demba Makemba Adula, also known as Conrad, is a Lasombra vampire who grew up during the 19th century Belgian occupation of the Congo. The atrocities she witnessed during this time, from disease and massacres to panicked warfare and religious fervor, shaped her early life. As a young woman, Makemba fell under the influence of a charismatic conqueror, learning about European technology and culture. After his death, she was found and embraced by Elias Bruelant, a 200-year-old Lasombra who'd settled in the Congo in the 1860s. Unlife did not shock Makemba, as she was already in despair and had come to embrace her mentor's darkening philosophy. She adjusted to her new existence as a vampire, exploring her powers and eventually traveling to Europe, where she was fascinated by the various empires and philosophies. She became involved with the Sabbat, though she rejected Cardinal Moncada's theology. In the 1920s, Makemba adopted the name Conrad, in honor of a Polish-English writer who deeply resonated with her. His writings about the horrors they'd both witnessed in her homeland reignited her passion to reshape the world. During the Great Depression, Conrad moved to the New World in search of new opportunities. Her flair for rhetoric and her ability to provoke official persecution helped her find opportunities in black communities across North and South America. She dreams of provoking white governments in tyrannical states through coordinated Sabbat efforts, hoping to breed more vampires like herself, but has yet to realize this ambition. Conrad also spends time teaching new recruits about Lasombra history and powers. She's intrigued by the potential opportunities and chaos the new century might bring. The idea of the impending Gehenna seems ludicrous to her, as she believes that from the end of every world, new vampires emerge. After hearing all of this, it may seem overwhelming, even terrifying to face such creatures of the night. But remember, as a hunter, we stand against the darkness. We strive to protect those who cannot protect themselves, even when our foes are as formidable as the Lasombra. You need to understand that these vampires, despite their power, are cursed creatures, burdened by their baneful distortion of image, compelled by their ruthless pursuit of power. As they once saw in me a potential asset, a potential kindred spirit in ruthlessness and strength. They might see in you my fellow hunters, so I urge you to remain steadfast and be wary of their manipulative nature. For I believe in the strength of humanity, in our resilience, and our capacity for goodness. As you walk this path, remember they, like us, are creatures of this world, bound by its laws, its physics, its ultimate truths. They may wield shadows, but we wield the light of knowledge and courage. Be vigilant, be steadfast, and let not their darkness sway you from your course. This is a fight not just for survival, but for the very soul of humanity. You are a hunter and you are not alone. Together, we will stand against the night, against the terrors that lurk within it, and against the shadowy dominion of the Lasombra. They might be masters of shadows, but we are the torchbearers of dawn, and in our resolve the darkness shall find its end. Godspeed, hunter.